Hello sports fans, welcome to Spruce Sports Central. Today, we're going to be going over my Week 3 UFL predictions. So last week in Week 2, I had a decent week as I went 2-2, and that brings my record on the season to 5-3. But getting into my predictions for this week, starting off with the game on Friday, that is the Storm at the Kings. So we'll be having a live watch party for this game starting about 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday, so I hope to see you guys there. So now, we just saw this game last week, and the Storm won 19-9, and that game in Orlando. Now, I'm not really sure why the UFL scheduled them to play back-to-back weeks, and that doesn't make any sense, but that is what ended up happening. But I do think we'll see another fairly close game. Now, the offense for the Storm, they've been pretty good as they're scoring 21 points per game, and quarterback Jack Plummer has been pretty solid, but they don't face a Kings defense that has been better than I expected so far, as they're actually third best in the league, as so far through 2 weeks, they're allowing just 17 points a game. Now, while the defense for the Kings has been pretty good, their offense is terrible, as they're scoring just 11 points per game, which is worst in the UFL, and they don't have a problem at quarterback after last week, because both Chandler Rogers and Jason Bean were not that good. Now, they've listed Jason Bean as their starting quarterback for this week, and that is what I would do, because I think Jason Bean is the better player, but obviously we'll have to see if he looks good. I thought he looked pretty good in Week 1, but was terrible last week going 4-for-15. But whoever does end up playing at quarterback for the Kings, they face a Storm defense that has been pretty good so far. But I'm going to take the Storm to get the win here. I just think they're a slightly better team. They beat them last week. I don't really see a reason they can't beat them this week. I mean, the Kings are at home. They can get the win, but I'll take the Storm to improve to 3-0 on the season and beat the Kings by a score of 24-12. Moving to the game we have on Saturday, that being the Gamblers at the Defenders. So the Gamblers, they're 1-1 after they beat the Stallions last week, winning 22-20. And the Defenders, they also got their first win last week as they beat the Aviators by a score of 44-26. And I think this should be a pretty interesting game. Now, the Defenders' offense, they were unstoppable last week with 44 points and over 200 yards on the ground. And running back Deion Jackson actually leads the UFL in rushing yards through 2 weeks. But the Defenders' offense, they face the Gamblers' defense that hasn't been the greatest so far, although their run defense has been pretty good, as they're actually second in the UFL, allowing just 67 rush yards per game through 2 weeks. Although, while they can stop the run, they can't really stop the pass, as they're allowing nearly 300 pass yards per game. Although, I'm really interested to see how the Defenders look throwing the ball, because Jordan Ta'amu has not been great so far this year, as in Week 1 he just did not play that well, and he was better last week, but he also wasn't asked to do a whole ton. So I'm very interested to see how he looks and how he plays against a pass defense that's not great, especially knowing he's probably going to be asked to do a lot more against a good run defense. So definitely something to watch. And then on the offensive side of the ball for the Gamblers, they've been okay, although they're very banged up at quarterback. As last week's starter Hunter Deckers left the game with a shoulder injury, and he did not return. And he is still listed as their starter on their depth chart, but he is not going to play this game. And he's also probably going to miss some time because the Gamblers, they signed another quarterback earlier this week. And then last week's backup quarterback, Nolan Henderson, who ended up playing most of the game, he is also on the injury report, and he's not likely to play as he's doubtful with a finger injury. So that means third-string quarterback Talia Tagovailoa, yes, Tua's brother, will be getting the start at quarterback for the Gamblers. And maybe he's good, but we don't know because we've never seen him play in the UFL. Although, while he's making his first start, he should have a pretty good run game to lean on, because the Gamblers, they ran for 173 yards last week, and they faced the Defenders' defense that was not very good at stopping the run in last week's game. But this is a game that could go either way. I do think this is going to be a higher scoring game, but I'm going to take the Defenders. I just trust their offense a lot more, especially after what they showed last week. And even though the Gamblers could have a good situation at quarterback, and Talia Tagovailoa could be great, we've never seen him play, I just don't really trust their quarterback situation, so I'll take the Defenders to get the win by a score of 24-15. And then finally, moving to the games on Sunday, the first one is the Aviators at the Renegades. So the Renegades, they've looked great as they're 2-0, and they face the Aviators, who are not so good as they're 0-2. And the Aviators are in a really tough spot for this game, because their defense is not good. They're allowing 33.5 points per game, and they don't have to try to slow down an offense that looked unstoppable, as Austin Reed and this Renegades offense is also scoring 33.5 points per game. And Austin Reed so far has thrown 7 touchdowns through 2 games. Although, I do think the Aviators defense has a chance in this game, because a lot of their struggles have been against the run, whereas the Renegades have done their damage through the air. So if they can slow down this pass offense, I do think the Aviators have a chance in this game. But while the Aviators defense isn't great, their offense has been okay, and last week they scored 26, and I think they could have success, especially if they can run the ball effectively. But I think this is going to be a pretty high scoring game, and I just don't think the Aviators are going to be able to outscore the Renegades because of how good the Renegades offense looked, plus their defense is not stopping anybody. So I'll take the Renegades to get the win in a high-scoring game, 37-23, and improve to 3-0 on the season. And our final game here in Week 3, also on Sunday, we've got the Stallions at the Battlehawks. So this should be a pretty good game, as we've got two teams who are both pretty good, although both teams did lose their first game last week, and both teams are now 1-1 on the season. But I do think both these teams are pretty good, and I don't think either team has reached anywhere close to their potential this season. Now, the offense for the Stallions, they've been okay. They've moved the ball pretty effectively, but while they have moved the ball, they haven't really put up the points, as they've scored just 35 points in their first 2 games combined. And they're going to need to find a way to get the ball into the end zone this week, because they face a really good Battlehawks defense. And even though the Battlehawks did allow over 30 last week to the Renegades, I still think this is the best defense in the UFL. Now, on the offensive side for the Battlehawks, they've not been very good. They're scoring just 15.5 points per game, and they're averaging just 230 total yards per game, which is actually last in the league. But they really need to get the offense going, and right now they're not throwing it well, and they're not running the ball well. And that's not a good matchup, because the Stallions' defense has also been pretty good, as through 2 games, they're allowing 17.5 points a game. But this is easily the toughest game for me to predict this week. I have no idea who to take. I think this is a lower scoring game because both these teams are good defensively, and neither team has really been too impressive offensively. And this game can really go either way, because I could take the Battlehawks because they've got the better defense, but I could also take the Stallions because I trust their offense to score a little bit more, even against a good defense. But then I could also go take the Battlehawks because they're at home, and it's very hard to beat the Battlehawks in St. Louis. So, I've got no idea who wins this game. I'll take the Stallions because I do trust their offense to score just enough points, even against a good defense. So I'll take them in a low-scoring game, 20-16, but this game is pretty much a coin flip, and I think this should be a pretty good game. But those are my Week 3 UFL predictions. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like the video, subscribe, turn notifications. I do my best to post as often as possible. Be sure to check out the post tab on my channel, where you guys can vote on who you think will win this week's games. But that's all for this video. I do my best to post as often as possible, and I will see you in the next video.